Welcome to the shop. I always look forward to your visit. Get yourself something to drink and let's get started. Here's our project for the day. You may have remembered, I don't know, those of you who've been with me for a while may remember doing this knife. I didn't show the whole process though. This is a bandsaw blade from a wood miser sawmill, and I made this knife out of it. You can see it's pretty thin. I didn't want it to be too big, but it has turned out to be a nice little knife. So as you can imagine, this is a very strong spring steel, and the wood miser of course has the big wheels on it with tires that this has to be able to wrap around that without breaking. And so this is a spring steel. It's very strong. The thing about it is, I know it's strong because when I drilled these holes with a speed drill, it just rounded them over. So you can't drill this with a speed drill. You have to do it with a carbide tip, and so I'll show you that. But I don't know how strong it is or what kind of a Rockwell hardness it has for blade retention. This one here I only use in the kitchen for food prep, and I run it on a steel every so often, and it has really worked nicely. It's not going to be something durable for the outdoors. This here, if you bend your knife like that, it's going to pop these scales right off, the handle scales right off of your knife. So this is really a little too long. I am going to make this one 4 inches. I'd like to see how it does with a 4-inch blade, but for the most part I'm thinking that after this one I will probably stick to more like 2.5 to 3 inch blades, simply for that fact of the flex in it. I'm not going to try to heat treat this or anything like that, but the first thing we need to do is get rid of all these teeth, which are probably tempered very hard, and the rest of this is spring steel, but we can't use those. So let's take this over and take off those teeth. The best way I have found to remove those teeth is to put it in my large vise and use my vise as a straight edge. So we want to max it out, put the gullet just at the top of the jaws, and then we'll use a grinding wheel on our angle grinder. The one thing you do have to remember when you're doing this whole process, if you try this, is that you don't want to overheat the metal. So I need to keep that bit moving because you don't want to burn any of this, and each one of these will cool as I go back and forth across it. Plus this vise will help to dissipate any temperature, any heat that is going into this, and it will keep the blade in good condition. All right, we've got this ground off nice and flat. You can see there's a little bit of grinding there that we didn't get, but that's going to be the handle part, and we'll be shaping this handle a little differently. But if you'll notice, this part right here all the way across is nice and smooth, and so that's what we're going to be using for the blade. Alright guys, here is my knife jig. See these two bolts right here I have put in so that they will be perfectly level, and the spine of the blade will sit up against that. Here on the back side, I took and drilled a hole and tapped it so that this, and then threaded it so that I can back that bolt out and I can change the angle that I want on this. So right now I've got it set as deep as it'll go. We take this right here, set the spine on there. We want the blade all the way off the edge. Take this, clamp it, and we are now ready to grind our edge. I have this board down here because my base here isn't wide enough for the whole thing to fit. So I put the board, clamp the board on there to hold it all together. The other thing I want to point out is the important thing when we're doing this is to keep the blade moving. You don't want to stop and create a hot spot and cause it to burn. So as long as we keep that blade moving, and I have my water over here to keep it cooled, we just make 2 or 3 passes, dunk it, 2 or 3 passes and dunk it. All right, now it's time to drill this tang. So we're gonna put a hole right about here, a hole right about here for those sizes, and then a hole right about in here for that one there. And then we're going to perforate and puncture a bunch of holes, smaller holes, so that the epoxy will flow through there. That serves 2 purposes when you are making a knife. If it's a heavier steel, this is very, very thin. If you're using a file or something like that, the handle will be heavier. So when you drill the holes, that helps lighten up the handle so that you move the center of the balance point up here closer to the haft of the knife. So we've got those holes. Now I also want to talk to you about drilling these. You have to have some special bits really to be able to get through this steel. This steel will round over mushroom your regular speed bits. So you need carbide bits. You have these all-purpose bits that you can get that have a carbide tip. That one there looks like it has, oh, I guess just, nope, it's broke. It's gone. That one's history. So the rest of these have a nice point on them. And I have to see, you got several different types that you can get of these bits, but they're carbide, so they will not, now these are tile for glass and tile, but they will still serve for the metal. What I've found is when you are using these, a lot of times, especially on the files, it will get so hot that the metal will melt, but the carbide's so hard it will not melt. That doesn't mean that they'll last forever. I can usually puncture use these about 4 to 6 times on heavy steel. I'll show you here what I mean. These are some knives that I made out of files, and you can see how much thicker that is right there, and so it takes a lot more to drill through. You can drill through them. So this is one, and here is the other. And so when I made these, you have to drill through that, and you have to have these carbide, and it just makes it easier on this one as well. And so we're going to go over and drill those holes. If you want to get a better look at these knives that I made out of files, you can go to the ToolScouter Instagram, and you can have some pictures there of these knives if you want to check it out. I know you may think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, and that is, you got to remember this is turning counterclockwise, and if it catches the wood, it's going to spin your blade this direction. So you do not want your sharp edge like that and you gripping it there. Some people even want to use gloves. I'm not going to worry too much about gloves on this thin a piece, but I am going to grab like this so that we are holding it, and if it catches, this is the spine is what I'll be holding on to. So let's go ahead and knock these out. You can see just how hot that gets. It's burning the wood, but and this doesn't get red hot. The files will get red hot when you're cutting them, and they'll even sometimes throw sparks. All right, we've got this all set up here. We've got it kind of roughed out. Got our holes drilled. You can see all the holes that are drilled in here so that epoxy will flow between the two halves, and it'll also lighten up the handle just a little bit. I have done, sanded and finished these edges here that'll go up against the blade right here, because I won't be able to get to those later. The rest of this we should be able to do well enough. Keep the little lids and caps to your cans, soup cans and things like that. They are great for when you want to do some epoxy. I also want to back up. These here are carbide. They're for tile and glass, and I said something about drilling the steel with them, and they do work on this thin stuff, but I would never try these on a file. I'm afraid they'd explode on you, and they just come apart. So just be forewarned. So let's get some glue here. All right. Should be enough. I would usually use a longer, not a quick setting epoxy if I were doing this on a file or a more high quality knife. This little thing, it will work great for. This thing will last forever if it's taken care of, so it's not too big a deal. All this done up, we'll get it together. I know it looks bad right now, but we'll get that cleaned up and we'll have it looking really nice soon. The thing we've got to be careful with here is we don't want to sand and heat that metal up too quickly, or it will soften the glue. So we just got to take our time and get it down. It looks horrible right now, but we will get that looking really nice here in a minute. So here's our final product. This is the one I made before, and this is the one I just finished up. I think they both came out well. They both are good and sharp. Like I said before, these are not high carbon or anything. It is a spring steel, and you got to be kind of careful to keep the edge sharp. Just a couple of strokes on a steel will keep it good and sharp, but it is not going to have the same edge retention as a high quality knife. But for food prep, I have found that they are excellent. So here we go, and we've got them finished up. Well, that was a fun little project doing this knife. I have two of them now, and so like I said, I've been using this one quite a bit, and it has been great. We went camping and I used it, again, just for food prep, but I've even carried it in my backpack when I've gone on road trips, and every so often it comes in real handy. So now I've got two of these. One of them has the finger choil here, as you can see up front, and the other one just has a blade notch so that you can sharpen that blade all the way to the edge. So thanks so much for joining me on this. If this was entertaining, please give us a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this also, and you think you know somebody that might enjoy this content, please send them the link and invite them to come along on these little projects as well. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're always looking for new subscribers, and so that is always helpful to the channel, and we can keep building this channel, this community of tools. And I sure do appreciate your time. Don't take it for granted. Try to give you content that's worthy of your time. Hope to see you on the next video. Have a great day. God bless.